Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, nerds? I'm doing good.
Good. This was a fun week because you and I went and saw pretty much the main topic of the show today. We went and saw Free Guy yesterday and had a good time with that at the theaters. And so, yeah, we figured that would be prime podcast fodder for this week. And then we'll also kind of give updates on where we've been with Final Fantasy XIV in the last week or two. Yeah, I think that's probably about the gist of what this episode is going to be. So if we do dive into spoiler conversation for Free Guy, which we probably will because I think some of them are pretty fun and pretty worth responding to, we will do the typical thing of like delineating and saying this is where spoilers start, and I'll have that in time codes and everything in the description below. But before we get to any of that, a little bit of housekeeping for you. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can always help support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite, just like our wonderful Patreon producers do. We thank them very much for helping pay the podcast fee bills, the monthly fees to keep all these podcasts up on our various services. Even though there are some that we haven't done in a year plus, it's still nice to have them out there. And then we also have our podcast, That Conversational Podcast, which I think most of our team has forgotten about. But maybe we'll be back with new episodes of that sometime soon. Diving in, let's kick things off with a little bit of a Final Fantasy XIV update. I was telling Cameron right before we started, I haven't really been progressing too much. I'm in the Heavensward stuff at this point, but mostly I've been hopping in this last week for just kind of like dailies. I've been going through. I've gotten really into the beast quests, so I've got all of the A Realm Reborn beast tribes up to like level 2, where I think it's like it's whatever is above neutral. So they're starting to like me more and more. And then I finished last night the quest line to unlock the Moogle Beast tribe in Heavensward stuff. So I'm making friends with Moogles now and having a good time with them. Hooray. That's like the daily thing I've been hopping into. I've been doing that, checking at the gold saucer. I got a polar bear mount last night. With the seasonal event that's going on right now. So that was fun. Went and did that and, knocked that out in 20 minutes or whatever. And then, it's like while I'm doing a lot of those daily types of things, I've been going in and I'll throw on the duty roulette and, inevitably help somebody through one of those last 2 missions of Realm Reborn. But I now know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing in that. So I've become quite familiar with it. The one thing I'm still not great with is the Magitech like controls, where if I wanted to try and like do a missile bomb or something like that. And same with the final fight of the one prior to that. If I'm trying to take out the lady in white, I have no idea how to like aim or target those missiles. So I just kind of do the normal DPS thing and let somebody else manage that. But
there you go.
Other than that, been having fun with that. It's mindless little way to kill time. I saw somebody tweet this out the other day. They put the Praetorium up on Letterboxd, the app for like tracking movies and whatnot, and they basically like put it up there. And like one of the comments is like, "This is probably the most viewed movie in the history of all time," or something like that. I was like, yeah, I mean, as even a noob myself, I can very much feel that, because I've definitely sat through it 5 or 6 times at this point now, I think. So
I do not even know if there's a way for me to even fathom how many times I've sat through that.
Yeah.
Just in trying to grind tomestones, or there'll be times when there are like a seasonal event going on where like doing different duties will get you a different kind of tomestone that can unlock like mounts and stuff that are normally locked behind like extreme modes of the trial bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And so like grinding those out, I have done, because you get I think like 10 of those special tomestones for just that Praetorium stuff.
Yeah.
And it is oof.
It's, I mean, like the level before, I think is like, I mean, like I think it's usually taking about 30 minutes on average, and then the Praetorium stuff is like 40-45 minutes on average kind of thing. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely an investment in time, but it's also like, I was going to be playing the game anyway, so might as well help somebody new through. It's always fun kind of see, like, since I never chat since I'm playing on console, it's fun seeing all the PC players like welcome that person and be like, just stick with us, we got you, and telling them what they need to do and stuff. So it's been a universally like welcoming crew, and then I always give that whoever the new person is a little commendation at the end while they're watching the final cutscene. So yeah, it's been fun.
And then they're left alone because they're the only people that stick around for it, because that cutscene's so long.
Yeah, they I'm sure they come out of it and they're like, where did everybody go? Oh, but I've got 7 commendations, yay. No, more like 2, because most people just bounce as soon as that cutscene starts. Yeah, I don't remember if we talked about it on this show. I don't think we did. I think it was probably on one of the other ones. But I also went through, finished the Hildebrand stuff, sorry, of the Realm Reborn like patch series of quests. And that was like just fun, dumb comedy throughout. I like the way that ended, and especially after realizing doing the Alliance raid with you and realizing how like, oh, this is like pulling in all these elements from FF3. That's really cool. Seeing going into like chapter 4 of the Hildebrand stuff, and it is like Ultros from Final Fantasy VI. I was like, yes, please. And then as I pointed out on Twitter and to you, I went back and did like the Ultros and Typhon trial fight like 7 times, I think, when all was said and done. Like it was one, like I was doing that once a night alongside like the duty roulette stuff. But then I was like, dang it, I really want that wind up Ultros minion. Give it to me. So I just kind of like kept replaying that trial over and over again for about 2 hours until I finally was the one that like won it in the loot draw. So yeah.
I've like I mentioned before, I've never done the Hildebrand quest stuff. I have no idea what it's like.
Yeah, that was it's fascinating to me, I think, especially because like when doing that, I was obviously picking specifically that one, but then I was getting matched up with people who were doing like duty roulette or whatever. So there were some people that were coming into that having never done it before and not knowing what they were supposed to do or what the mechanics were. And I'm like, oh, that's really weird. If like if you're doing a roulette that you can be ending up with like trials or quests or something that you would not have seen otherwise in the game. So yeah, it was fun. Godbert Manderville makes a regular cameo appearance throughout that thing from the Gold Saucer stuff. So yeah, and I walked away with a couple of very dapper outfits and a little wind up gentleman as my minion at the end of all that Hildebrand stuff. So it was fun. It was, I mean, like I said, I think the first time I talked about it, it was just super like completely tonally different from like everything else I'd played up to that point. That was, this is serious, we're taking this serious. Maybe there'll be like a couple little bits of humor here and there, and obviously a ton of like references to other Final Fantasy things. Even that, like, a couple of the big battles are quite literally like the big battle on the bridge, or the big battle in the fort, or something like that. And there are references to Gilgamesh fights and songs from like Final Fantasy V and stuff like that. So there was like a lot of love in there, but that was the most like slapsticky experience I've had in Final Fantasy XIV, and had a great time with it. So but you've been running a whole new class of character in Final Fantasy XIV. So what have you been up to?
Yeah, so like I saw that our friends over at Point in Progress are like, there are a bunch of them are doing Final Fantasy XIV as a game right now. Fiona Zernix herself has like hopped into it, and she's right now doing my favorite class, the Dark Knight class. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I've done DPS in other games, I've done tanking, and this in Final Fantasy XIV was my first time really taking on the tank role. And I'm like, I kind of want to try out healing, but I don't like. I tried hopping into Astrologian a while ago, and like that's fine, but like, I don't know. I just want to start something new, and so I was like, if I'm going to start a new character, I'm going to be a white mage, and I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna play that, and that's exactly what I did. I picked up white. I'm currently conjurer level like 28 right now, and like I'm going around doing conjuring stuff, and I'm almost level 30, which means I'm gonna unlock white mage. I'm looking forward to it. Like it's been interesting because it is clearly like there's a strong distinction between the healing stuff and the spellcasting stuff, and the spellcasting stuff is pretty potent. Like it's pretty powerful stuff, but it's also very simple. There's only like two. So basically, I have like 2 DPS abilities, 2 healing abilities, and then 2 like crowd control abilities. And that's just kind of like how it's set up to be. And so it's been fun kind of like playing through and kind of like having different roles, but then immediately when I'm in a group being super like respondent to, like I ran Ifrit, the Ifrit trial as a healer for the first time. And that was just totally different. And somebody asked me, they're like, hey, like have you, like, did you do, actually I think this is in a dungeon run. But somebody asked me like, hey, did you play healer in World of Warcraft? I was like, no, like kind of, but not really. Like I stopped playing World of Warcraft years ago. This is my first time healing, and even then I wasn't really like a consistent healer back then either. And he was like, oh, okay, cool, because like you're doing kind of like the World of Warcraft thing where you just like focus on healing the tank and that's it, which is fine. Like the guy's like, it's fine, but like you're gonna want to like learn how to pepper in like casting some DPS as well. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try that. And I was immediately picked up on it. I was like, oh, this is cool because I have this like no charge time spell Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And Arrow just like lets me drop a like damage over time spell on things. And so it's just immediately like, cool, I'll just scan through everybody, drop Arrow on every single enemy, go back to healing people, and then like do that over again. And then when it's time to like really DPS take down the boss, throw in my stone 2 now I have. So really liking it a lot. It's a lot of fun. So
I appreciate that your disdain for DPS still lives on. You're not even bothering to heal DPS. You're only healing the tank. Thanks.
DPS should be moving out of damage areas.
I mean, I do. That doesn't mean like there aren't entire area of effect things that come in and screw me up. Jerk.
Well, yeah, because at that point I have to heal myself too, so I'll just use my vast range heal.
Yeah.
Which coincidentally will heal DPS. Like, does it also heal DPS? Yes. If I could stop it from healing DPS, would I? Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Depends how competent my DPS has been.
Yeah. Have you rezzed anybody?
Have I rezzed anybody yet? I haven't had to.
Okay. That's good.
I have not had to raise anybody outside of like when I got the res ability, like the raise ability, I had to use it in like a
tutorial kind of thing.
Yeah, like a tutorial kind of thing. Or actually, I was doing one of the like main story quests, and like I had somebody drop, and I was like, "Nope, yeah. Raise you NPC."
Yeah.
So I guess in a way, I did raise an NPC who was coincidentally DPS class. So there you go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. I mean,
will I raise an NPC before I raise a DPS PC? 100%.
I mean, just as a reminder here, that you yourself have pointed out that you're also part DPS now. So you are the thing you hate.
Mm. So. No, because I'm a competent DPS. I know what I'm doing now.
Okay.
DPS.
Okay. I mean, we'll see. I'm glad you're
Trevor, you're competent DPS. I would always hear you. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks.
You don't play monk. You don't play monk, and you don't play true.
That's true. There was one, I don't remember which trial it was, but it was one we were coming through, or I don't even think it was a trial even. It was probably like the final fight of a dungeon or something like that. And it was, we definitely wiped like the first time or two in like a final phase of the thing where we were transported into a weird dimension or something. And then the guy started dropping like meteors on everybody. And the mechanic was like, once the meteor drops, you have to like...
That is a trial. That's okay. That is the Nahabraelis trial.
Yeah.
Post Realm Reborn, it's when he kidnaps
Yes.
Menphilia.
Yeah, Menphilia, yeah.
Mhm.
So it was like it was figuring out, oh, okay, once the first meteor drops, then we need to take out this thing. And so like I was doing whatever I could to take out that thing, just not doing enough damage. And then and then the person was like, somebody was spamming in chat like, range DPS or melee ranged DPS, you need to use LB3. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know what LB3 is. I'm not melee range, so I don't need to necessarily worry about that. But it was like me googling LB3 FF14 or whatever and finding, oh, that's limit break 3. And just because, partially because you've been like, don't ever bother using limit breaks. But then it's just like limit breaks are never a thing I've even thought about until that fight where it was like, yeah, the only way you're going to do enough damage before like the big meteor drops and wipes everybody is if you like limit break that tear to get everybody out of that sequence or whatever. So I was like, okay, now I kind of know what a limit break is or does. And like I was even like preparing to like figure out how to get into my menus and try and use it myself, if I needed to, just to do some kind of limit break damage on it. But fortunately the whoever was our melee DPS picked it up at the time. So it was definitely an experience, going through that, whenever that was. Having fun with it. I'm well past the 60 level cap of Heavensward at this point. In large part, I think because I'm getting like 500,000 experience points every time I do Praetorium or whatever. So it's leveling me up pretty quickly. But yeah, glad you're having some fun with trying out the new healer class thing. It's definitely something I find myself thinking about occasionally, where I'm like, like when I do hop into like the duty roulette, it's like, hey, everybody, like all of these things want a healer, and so you would like, you'll get bonuses if you're a healer or whatever. I'm like, do I want to try and become a healer? No, not yet. Let me just keep chipping away at the stuff in my black mage garb and go from there. So
I will say being a healer is, I really only think the only reason I'm a competent healer is because I've been a tank for such a long time, and because of that I know the performance and patterns and behaviors of really good healers. And so because like that's the thing, is if you have a really good healer, speaking of which, like the other night, this is something that I've actually been doing, is even on my main guy, not just doing the side stuff, I've been trying to do ultimate runs. I've been trying to do ultimate raids. So I've been finishing up some like the Minstrel's Ballad stuff, some post Realm Reborn's game stuff, and we did the Minstrel's Ballad Ultimate Weapon. And we lost a healer because of, people not knowing how to run it and somebody getting frustrated and leaving. And I was like, hey, I'm going to stay around for like another couple minutes, but if we don't get another healer, I'm going to bounce. And somebody's like, well, like, listen, I'm a really good healer. I can get us through this. And I was like, I don't know. And somebody's like, but the other tank, who's like the brand new newbie, was just like, okay, and then launched into the fight. And I was like, you know what? Shoot, let's go for it. Let's give it another shot. Like, why not? And we ended up like making it through relatively easily. And so I was like, I typed out in party chat. I was like, hey, you really are a great healer. Thank you.
Nice.
Like God to your heels. Thanks. I was like, jeez.
I think I still have that. Actually, I might have abandoned the mission because I didn't know at the time how to get it out of my my little queue of windows and stuff. But I definitely picked up the mission to do that Ultima Ballad one, and I was like, that seems like that'd be way tough. And it was like the day after I had gone through the long two cutscene stuff with you at the end. So I was like, I'm not ready to jump right back into that just yet. But I'm sad I didn't, because I would have hopped in and run that with you. Probably would have, it probably would have gone the way of our Bahamut run. But
no, not that one. That one was just like, I really want to try that again with you at some point.
I was thinking about that last night. Actually, I was like, maybe I've got enough distance from it. I will, before I hop into that, I will sit down and watch a video tutorial of or a video of people running that, so I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm not just frustrated at a person who's giving terrible instructions. But yeah. And then also I think I'll probably need to prepare myself and be and what is the rest of that thing? Because I definitely thought it was this is it, and like you finish that fifth one and boom, you're done. I did not realize until you mentioned after the fact that it was like, oh yeah, no, there are like 3 turns of coils of Bahamut.
Yeah, so the coils of Bahamut, there's the first turn, second turn, and third turn. On the first turn, which what we were on, it is it is very much a straight, like what we're going through, straightforward. When we get through this last turn, we're gonna find out that it goes deep, like the yalms as we go further in, the like yards down into the earth. Like we start getting into like some serious numbers of those soon. So yeah, we'll get into that. But it's very similar to like what we saw in the first turn, where there's going to be some that are just like, it's just like one really quick fight.
Yeah.
Some of them it's going to be running around a lot.
Yeah, that one little platforming one that like was all of, like we were done in 5 minutes or whatever. It was like, that was it. That was really, that was a thing. Okay.
Yep. And like it's cool because it means that like we get a lot of variety in it, but also like after the first turn, like more and more questions get answered and like more and more stuff gets revealed. Like I've watched people do them, but like I'm really excited to do those with you, especially as we lead up to Bahamut himself. Like there's some cool stuff, and I think that you will really enjoy what we find down there.
Yeah.
So I do want to get back into that, but I also think that because if we don't go in with minimum eye level gear, like we'll have an easier time with it. So as you get like better, as you've gotten better gear now, I think that'll make it easier too. But also I think just getting like a better group of people to go down there with would also be better.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our Final Fantasy XIV update talk. Certainly, continuing to chip away at it. Though Hades and whenever I get around to Boyfriend Dungeon, will like peck away at some of the time that I spend with it, but still definitely making some time to hop in and do daily stuff there in and enjoy in Final Fantasy XIV. As we lead up to, we still got like what 2-3 months now till Endwalker, so
Yep.
I mean, I definitely have plenty of time to get through the rest of Heaven's Word, Stormblood, and then Shadowbringers. I am no longer like concerned about that. It's how long is, how many detours am I going to take along the way is probably where I more sit right now. But yeah, so let's dive into to Free Guy talk. As I said, we went and saw Free Guy yesterday. And so what did you think of Free Guy? Kind of spoiler free first, and then we'll dive into some potential spoiler stuff after.
I think a big part of it is the fact that I went in with such little expectation about this film, but I really came away with it thinking like, this is a great movie. Like, holy crap, I can't believe that they made it like a great movie out of this premise and this setup. Like, I expected it to be dumb or bad. Like, I expected it to be so bad that it was good kind of territory. Like, so dumb that it was funny. But it totally caught me off guard. Its humor, its wit, its like spirit and soul to this film is actually like really solid. Like, there is something to this film. My only complaint is that, as you've seen from like trailers and stuff, if you've seen those trailers, so it's not really spoilers, I think there's just a little bit too much of a cameo emphasis by some like online personalities, YouTube like content creators and whatnot. Like, going back to those people over and over again gets a bit exhausting and tiring, I think. Like, I did not need to see Ninja so many times in this movie. Like that, like, there are so many people that they could have, like, a large amount of people that if you did want to show off this many content creators, we didn't need to see repeats of like the same people over and over again. Jacksepticeye, Laserbeam, etc. Like, we didn't need to have those people over and over and over again. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It was fun, and it just did things so well. And I was really pleasantly surprised to find it to be such a good movie. So.
Yeah, I went in. I went in probably with like low expectations, but I definitely went in thinking I was going to have a fun time. And I think a lot of that comes, I enjoyed the first trailers that were coming out, and I was like, oh, this looks like a cool video game movie that isn't tied to like a specific IP or something, but it it looks like they're doing kind of what Scott Pilgrim did before it, and stuff like that, of like, this is made by people that enjoy gamer culture and can like speak to that, and will have fun, poking and prodding at that, and then tell, this interesting story. Like, it is an interesting premise of like an NPC, tries to break out of their routine and become like a main character or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think that, coupled with having already been very pleasantly surprised by Detective Pikachu and the Ryan Reynolds factor of that as well, I was like, like, Ryan Reynolds these days is on a good roll of like picking smart projects that he's like really getting behind. Obviously, like in the lead up to this, he's been really behind this project, and
Mhm.
poking fun at its numerous delays and stuff like that because of COVID and everything. And so I think if this was one that he was like, just kind of like phoning in, or doing like just showing up and doing the Ryan Reynolds thing, I don't think he would have been backing it as much as he did. I mean, that could just be me incredibly naive and whatever, and he could just be backing it because maybe he's taking points on the back end and wants to make as much money as possible, so he gets,
Well, he's a like,
he
lead
is a
producer
producer
on
on
it,
it.
so yeah.
So but it definitely felt like he was putting a lot of energy behind this one, and so I went in expecting I was going to have a good time. I was not expecting to have as good a time as I did, so much so that I actually went back and saw it again this morning.
Did you really?
Yeah. When I reached out to you yesterday, I was like, "Hey, do you want to do 2 o'clock?" It was because I had already looked and been like, Alamo has a 10 o'clock, so I'm gonna go watch it again, and then I'll come and do the podcast, and I'll talk with Cam
There
about
we
it.
go. Okay.
So yeah, I went and saw it again, and we'll dive into a little bit more stuff like when we dive into the spoiler talk about it. But it's interesting because you're lamenting on the internet personalities that kind of pop up. I think like across the movie, they're probably like only in there for like maybe 3 minutes tops of a 2-hour movie. But they are like in concentrated doses to like help progress a little bit of stuff along. So I mean, like they're definitely getting a focal point when they're like introduced, and then when they kind of come back to explain where we're at in the story and stuff. But I think there's an element of like, if I mean, like, it, like, put it this way, if it was content creators that we liked or that we watched, not like
Mm,
Ninja, it would have been like, hey, that's really cool. Like when Terry Schwartz shows up from, formerly IGN, I believe now she's with Netflix. Like, it was really cool seeing her pop up and have like a couple little
that's true.
moments
Yeah.
throughout the thing. But yeah, I'm like, I don't care about Ninja.
Terry
I
Schwartz.
like
I
Jack.
I like. Yeah, that's fair because I was like, my first thought was like, I could have used a little bit more Pokimane.
Yeah, it's, I mean,
I don't watch Pokimane, but I like her
like
as a
like
content creator. So
yeah, like if Greg had gotten in there, I don't think we would be complaining about that as a thing. It would
that's
be like,
fair.
that's really
That's a good
cool
point.
that like Greg is out there. So like,
Well, that's also different though because like that's our friend.
I mean, exactly. But like, so I imagine, especially like there is an element of like obviously Ninja's popularity has waned since this came out and stuff. Like, he's still huge and all that, but like he's not at the peaks he was in the days of Drake or whatever. So there's an element of like, there was like that immediately kind of puts things in a time capsule. Like, I've heard the name Laserbeam. I don't think I'd ever seen Laserbeam until this, and I know the name Jacksepticeye, and I've seen him in a couple things, but I've never actually like watched his stuff. But like, I'm able to like pick him out in the video and stuff. And then the
I
girl
knew
came
about
on and
I was gonna say Jacksepticeye. I know from he was up for the award
yeah,
for
opposite Greg, yeah.
opposite Greg, and that's when I first heard about him. And then I saw him do a lot of Among Us Let's Plays with a lot of like different content creators, so I watched him do those, which was just fun.
Yeah.
And that's also like when I first started actually seeing like clips of like Pokemon, I was like, oh, she's actually like really fun, like really sweet kind of person. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went over to Laserbeam. I knew from Rooster Teeth stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's an RT backed streamer. So
yeah, I was just gonna say, like when Pokemon popped up, I before seeing her name on things or whatever, like see, because I think like her, I think they have her like Twitch whatever overlay or whatever. But like she came up and I was like, oh, I wonder if that's Pokemon. And then I like realized, oh yeah, it's Pokemon, because like it was, oh, here's the girl streamer kind of like almost in that chorus, and I was like, that's the biggest female streamer name I can think of that I would know as somebody who doesn't watch streaming and stuff. So like to appeal to like the broad audience, it's an interesting thing to pull in. But on the flip side, then you have like your Alex Trebek cameo that of course is also in the trailers and stuff. So that's not a a spoiler or anything. But like
when he came on, like my heart sank. I was like, oh, Alex, like
yeah.
We miss you, man. We miss you. Rest in peace.
So I think there's an element of like that being just kind of another element of like, this is almost a time capsule movie. Obviously it was supposed to come out last year originally and then didn't because of the pandemic and everything. So it very much feels like a 2019, 2020 pop culture era kind of the gaming community and stuff. And I think, I think that's reflected in what we see in here. The thing that surprises me, I think, the most is like, yes, there are those cameos, but like there are a lot that are also like understated that we'll dive into a little bit more in the spoiler stuff. And they've done a really it's been a really fascinating thing because they haven't given a ton of stuff away in the marketing of the movie. And I think part of that may hurt it at the end of the day of like, oh, if people knew that this person were in it or something, it would maybe drive more butts to the theater. But I think because they're not, it's going to have kind of that Scott Pilgrim effect of like, it's immediately going to have a cult following of people that like really get behind this movie and love it, even if they didn't show up to see it in theaters and stuff. But I'm hopeful it does well enough that they like, I mean, Ryan Reynolds is out there tweeting that Disney is now interested in like turning this into a franchise kind of thing. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's super rad. Like,
really cool. And really cool. I think even outside of the like video game like thing, there's a lot of like interesting ideas and interesting story beats in here, and really like fun and interesting character dynamics that we'll dive into a little bit more.
Oh yeah, totally. Like there is a couple of characters in this entire thing that outright steal the show whenever they're on scene, like they're on camera, and are phenomenal. Like the relationships that like Guy has with his fellow NPCs is super fun.
Yeah.
We'll get into way more to those in spoiler territory, but it's great.
Yeah, I mean, great performances all around. I really had a good time with it. And I really like the story. I really like the script. I like the
script is
watching it again
really
today.
Well done.
Like
really well done.
A lot of the things I love are like the jokes that like don't have anything to do with games or something like that. It's just like games is the paintbrush that they're using for this, but there were some really just standout bits that I'm sure we'll dive into to when we get to it. But great performances all around. And I really just had a great time with it. I did want to touch on, so we went and saw it also with your brother-in-law who joined us. And it was nice meeting him. And he asked the question after we got out of the movie, like, who was this for? And like, I mean, it's definitely a fair question, but I think as I've been thinking about that for the last day, I think it is like, I mean, I said basically like, anybody that like knows video games, I think is an audience for this. And that is a massive amount of people these days, especially when you factor in games like Fortnite and Minecraft, and the overwhelming popularity that those have had among younger audiences. This is a PG-13 movie. So it's definitely like appealing to, that crowd. And it's like, I basically responded that like the people it's not for are the people that think games are destroying America or something like that. Those people you're never going to be able to sell this movie on. But like thinking about it and realizing, oh, there is that like Scott Pilgrim element of this kind of movie. There's some other comparisons I feel like I can draw, but I don't want to mention them in this section because they're kind of like spoilery for like plot beats and stuff, but I'll like highlight a couple or at least one other one when we talk about spoiler stuff. But like it's like it's a good story overall, and I think it does enough to introduce you to the gamification of the world that even if you don't know games, like I think my parents would still enjoy this movie. I think they might enjoy it a little bit more because they've experienced games through my eyes a little bit here and there over the years. But even outside of that, I think the game does a good enough job like introducing you to the things you need to know about games, and then it's just, if you are a gamer or you're immersed in gamer culture or something, you're going to get so much more. And especially today when I was watching it and just like looking at the background of things, there are so many little like extra Easter eggs that aren't Easter eggs of like, oh, look at that weapon, that's from that game. Like the movie has a couple of those here and there, but it's like really sparse with those actually. And it's more like, oh, look at that character, they're running down the street and jumping every couple steps, just like I do when I'm like playing a video game. Because at some point when I was a kid, I got the impression, and maybe some games did this, where like if I'm jumping, I'm actually moving faster than if I'm just like running. And so like there are characters in the game that are doing that kind of motion, or there are people just like walking into walls and stuff like that. And it's just fun to see that this was clearly a game that, or a movie that was made by people who love games and know games intimately, to like think to include those kinds of elements and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I went in expecting to have fun. I was not expecting to have as much fun as I did. I think, maybe not notoriously, but like I really enjoyed Ready Player One when that came out a few years ago, and a lot of my enjoyment of that movie, having never read the book, came from like the layer that I was putting on top of it of like the community that I have found myself in for the last 6 years because of the Kind of Funny fan base and friends, and I'm wearing my Kind of Funny shirt even, and the friends that I've made in that. And so like I put myself in the shoes of the protagonist of Ready Player One, like making friends through a video game and video games in general. And I think Free Guy does like everything that I liked about Ready Player One, but like a few times better. Like,
Yeah.
I think it is a much better all around film that also, a lot of people might compare Free Guy to Ready Player One or even like Space Jam recently because like of this whole like IP, let's throw everything at the wall. And again, I think Free Guy is like really particular with the ways it uses that kind of like IP crossover and elements. And again, we'll dive into more of that in spoilers, but it doesn't just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. It like has very particular beats and moments that it's going for, and it uses those like crossover possibilities and opportunities really effectively, I think, in a way that Ready Player One was just like, hey, here's a billion characters on screen, have fun Easter egg hunters, and enjoy freeze framing this thing. Like, you don't have to freeze frame this to enjoy it, and I think that's just a really strong element of this story. Really had a great time with it. So those are my spoiler free thoughts. Anything else you have before we dive into spoiler chat?
No, I don't think so. I think we're ready to go.
All right. So yes, last warning, we are going to dive into Free Guy spoilers now. So if you have not seen the movie or you care about that kind of thing, go watch the movie. It's really good. Highly recommend it, especially if you're the kind of person that's listening to a podcast like this, where we usually talk about video games. I imagine you would be in the audience, target audience for a movie like Free Guy. So go. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you have fun. And then come back and listen to us gush a little bit more about some of the specific beats and elements of the movie. So yeah, let us dive full on in spoiler stuff. Anywhere in particular you want to start there, Cam?
Yes, I did want to start in a single place, and that is the relationship between Guy and Buddy is so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so special. And like Guy, there's the moment where Guy is like in that funk where he has found out nothing is real.
Yeah.
And he is just down in the dirt, just like pitiful, absolutely pitiful. And Buddy tells him just like, but the moment I'm in right now is real. Like you're depressed, sure, like you're sad about this, but like even if nothing else is real, I'm sitting here with my best friend in the entire world who's having a hard time, and I'm just here to help him get through it. That's real.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, damn, like this movie is good.
Yeah. That's definitely shout out to Lil Ray Howery playing Buddy there, who like throughout the movie up to that point, fun comedic role, clearly like the sidekick of Ryan Reynolds, Guy's character and stuff, and like he has a lot of fun like little one-liners and reactions to things, and he's like the friendship that they have feels in a somewhat scripted way because of, you know, them being video game characters, whatever. But like that sequence right there, like earlier on, you have the moment where like Buddy tries to bring him in and give him the sunglasses and stuff, and a guy tries to bring Buddy in with the sunglasses, and Buddy still resists and kind of turns it away because he's, you know, afraid of that. And so that was like a first little layer to that friendship of like guy just wants to help him out and just bring him along and like open him up to this whole new world that he's experiencing. And then yeah, I think that scene in particular that you're touching on is like where I was like, okay, this is like a special kind of relationship on screen where it is like that. There were a couple moments in this, that was one of them, that are like, that's just fucking beautiful writing and like a really great, because I mean, like, take that out at like none of the characters in this movie are real. They're characters in a movie, but that doesn't make the moment that they're having any less real. And the
on top of that, they're not even real people in the movie,
right? Yeah,
they're fake people in a game in a movie.
Yeah,
with like, it is one thing on top of a layer of like disassociation that you have with that, and on top of everything else. But in that moment, he just delivers that line so beautifully, and it just pulls Guy right out of that funk, gets him right back into it, trying to solve the problems. And he goes, "Hey, do you know all the other security guards?" And he goes, "Of course I do."
Yeah, like.
And it's like, how did they break into this place? Because he knows all the security guards and he goes, that's not even his name.
Yeah.
His name is Luigi.
Exactly, yeah. Well, oh, you like Jimmy? You know Jimmy? His name's Luigi. Maybe if you knew that, he wouldn't be so quick to turn on you. Yeah.
So good.
I love that. And then, I mean, the payoff to that whole thing being like Guy and Buddy running across the bridge, and then like that heartfelt, you know, goodbye that Buddy has of like, dude, like, don't be sad, man. This was the greatest day of my life. Like, I love that we still get a happy ending of him like being inserted back into the game at the end. But it was like, if he had gone out and not come back, that still would have been like such a beautiful like cap to that character. The fact that like he gets that and gets, you know, his cake and eat it too, and or you know, ride a centaur too as he comes back in at the end, is just like icing on a cake. And like I absolutely love that like they have that friendship, and the chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and him was so great throughout. Like
the moment they come on screen together for the first time, when he goes and it's like they immediately, you feel, oh, these guys are best friends.
Yeah.
Like, we're walking to work together, drinking our medium coffee, milk 2 sugars or whatever.
Cream 2 sugars, I think, yeah.
Cream 2 sugars, yeah, cream 2 sugars.
Yeah.
I also want to say shout out to Ryan Reynolds' like first opening when he drinks it. He goes, "Oh, it's like losing my virginity." It's like, this is going to be a different kind of film. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, his one-liners like that are very Deadpool-esque, of course. You know, obviously given the Ryan Reynolds nature. Like the second one that comes back is like, oh, it's like God, you know, kissed me, but before he did, he told my dad he was good enough or whatever. Like whatever that, like, it's like, that is such a weird, very specific sentiment that he's trying to get across there, but I love it. It was great, and it like, I never knew what to expect coming out of his mouth. Really, is the Ryan Reynolds factor in that regard, I guess. And I'm sure there are like a million different takes. Like, there's a lot of that where like I think also a lot of Taika Waititi's stuff is clearly ad-libbed, and
oh my gosh,
and they're
Taika
like, well,
Waititi's
that's
so
what we're gonna
good.
put in there. But yeah,
he wears the I mentioned this before to you and to other people. He wears the most pretentious but at the same time cringe-inducing piece of clothing I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah,
his denim duster that he's wearing, the Venom or the denim hoodie combo duster that he's wearing is so pretentious and so unbelievably cringe-inducing. Like, so badly. Taika Waititi's character is like an absolute highlight for me. I know that I've been hearing other people say like, oh, they weren't too hot on his character, they didn't like him as much. I loved him, especially in those moments where he was like, when he was with the other guy and like the other, not Coder, but the other
the security guy, Mouser is the character's name.
Mouser,
Utkarsh, Utkarsh, Utkar,
yeah, Mouser, and because it's Mouser and Keys. That's why it's so funny. They like they go by those names when they're cops. It's great. when Mouser's just like, cool, let's like, and it's like catchphrase. He goes, oh, and he's like, oh, we should like. Are you saying that because you feel like we're on the same team now, and like because of that we're gonna have a like cool catchphrase?
And start.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, on three.
Cool.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Get back to work. Just so good. Just like oh, maybe this is cool. No, it's not.
Yeah.
He sucks. He sucks. There are these moments where it's like, oh, maybe there is like an actual like decent person behind this like this like personality and facade. And in a way there is.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he was an absolute villain at the end of the film, he still would have taken the axe to the server.
Yeah.
But also there's that moment where he comes over to Keys and he says, "Hey, Keys, like,
you sure you want to be a programmer?" Yeah, it's another moment I was absolutely thinking of.
He goes, you are way too talented just to be doing this. And when Keys declines, he goes, I mean, if you're telling me I don't have to pay you more money, I won't. Like, that's fine. But like, there are these moments of like a sentiment of like, oh, this is a real person. Mm-hmm. It's not just a full on evil caricature of, Bobby Kotick meets, what's his name? Bosky, Boss Forge
Blazinski.
Blazinski, like Blazinski meets Kotick meets like
Todd Howard
Howard, like all these like different kind of like big. I wouldn't actually call Todd Howard a big personality.
David Jaffe, you want to throw David
Jaffe? I would put David Jaffe. Pierre Molyneux.
Yeah.
I'm like Todd Howard's like the anti like big personality in games. With like that dude's just so milquetoast. It's so funny. And he's like apparently like the most simple, down to earth guy. Like when I think of like what does Todd Howard drive, to me, he's like that dude drives like a Toyota Camry or something. Like he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy to be like, I'm like this big personality.
Yeah, he'll never show up in a duster. He'll
never show up in a duster. No, but it's just like this perfect meld of like so many like big gaming, like creating personalities, and then I loved when he goes to him and he says, like, you used our game, like, why didn't you ever, like, just, like, if you knew it was going to be good, why didn't you publish it? He goes, because I looked at the data, those numbers, I looked over it, and, like, it's like, I focus grouped it, he did, like, it's like, oh, did he screw them over and he's a bad guy? Yes, but did he also, like, give them did he see the technology for what it was worth and just like realize that their application of it was just not going to work because of like where things were going, which by the way, with the way they described it at E3 or whatever, or the IGN interview, that sounded boring.
Boring? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a game where you just watch NPCs like grow and learn. It is like, okay, yeah, I mean, it could refine a selling point on that. Yeah, like that's like I'm like, that's not a game. That's just a simulation. Like you're purchasing a simulation that you can't even take part of. It's like that's you playing The Sims, but you not being able to do anything. Yeah, like, but The Sims are fully sentient and do what they want, and like you can't change that. That to me also is like, okay, yeah, no, because it turns out like they had this really great technology, but their game concept kind of sucked. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, you find out that they kept kind of the idea of like quote unquote free city, but they integrated it with this idea of letting the world itself evolve as it wants to. Yeah. With the NPCs evolving as well, which I thought was just like, I saw the end of that and I was like, man, that looks like a really cool place to play games in. Yeah. Yeah. So. Gosh. The other like analog that I was going to bring up that I didn't want to do because I think it's like spoilery, but I think this also has a lot of the same DNA that Wall-E had. For sure, 100%. Most notably, of course, the kiss being what like restores the memory when it's lost or whatever. But I think it's the same kind of thing of like, Wall-E is a movie that's like, who is that audience for? I mean, like, it's an animated film, so it'll have, an audience of kids, but it's also like a silent film for a lot of that movie. And it is like relying on visual gags and visual storytelling to like really get that thing across. But there's still so much like heart built into the story that they're telling, and they work into it that like that's what I was blown away by. This is like, I get that it's a hard movie to market because you don't want to give away what's like really going on, and the whole idea that like, oh, like actually this character is like, it's not just that he's an NPC, it's that like they've inadvertently created an AI, and there's like this whole wrestling of like what does it mean to be real, and all that stuff.
Dude, when the fact that they like, I was talking to my brother-in-law about it. He goes, I wasn't really too hot about this one scene, which is like the like right after their kiss,
mm-hmm.
like Keyes comes over to talk to Millie about.
Yeah, it's all real. Like he's uncovered it. He knows what's going on. Yeah,
yeah. He goes the fact that it happens right afterwards, which I was talking to my brother-in-law about it. And I was talking to John, and he was just like, yeah, you know, that this that, and I was like, yeah. Oh, by the way, like I was like, no, I liked it because, like you got to see her reaction to it, like right after, and he goes, yeah, you do kind of like get to see her full range of emotions, like as she's processing everything.
Yeah,
because she finds like it's right after when Keyes goes, kiss you, there's not a button for that. Oh, he found the button.
Yeah, I mean, like that whole sequence is great because like obviously it's one of the many moments where like they cut away from the game to see like what's really going on in the real world, and so like he goes in and there's that like wonderful little kiss between like Ryan Reynolds and her character in the game, and then it like cuts out to just see her like staring at the screen, just kind of like bewildered but also like really into it. And then like,
which right away when she does
off,
this whole thing, and it's like she finds out that he's not real, but she's still kind of into it. When that happens to me, my first thought was like, aha, we found our Chloe Naylor.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like that going right into that, like here's everything that's going on, like and them realize, because we as an audience obviously know that, oh, he's not a real player, he's an NPC, and like we're ahead of them at that point, but it's them catching up to what's really going on in the world, and yeah, getting to see her react to that right after she's just had this like intimate moment. Like I love her line of like, of course the first like good guy I kiss turns out to not even be real, and then like her
the
just
first
whole, like,
that I've ever kissed,
yeah,
that, like that's ever kissed me.
That's kissed me in forever or whatever it was. But yeah, it's like that whole like, is it why is it so hot in here? Like her whole like fluster reaction to that is great. And I like ultimately I especially love the payoff. And there's another point, just like the you know, Buddy and Guy dynamic of Buddy basically being like, you know, this moment is real, being like, that's a really fucking good line. Another really good fucking line is like, I love you and that may be my programming, but you know what, somebody wrote that programming, I'm just a love letter to you, is like
so good,
fucking
so good,
beautiful. Like that, I put that up there with the like, what is love if not grief persisting or whatever from WandaVision earlier this year. Is like best lines I've heard in it, best written lines I've seen portrayed in recent years. Like that, that is just incredibly beautiful. And then obviously that like triggers her to realize that Keyes has been into her for years.
Well, she goes back to finish watching Keyes' video to her.
Yeah.
And because we only get it halfway through because she cuts it off.
Yeah.
Or it gets cut off because she has to get back into the game or whatever.
Yeah, she realizes what she needs to do now, so she's gonna she doesn't need the rest of the backstory from him. She's gonna go bring Guy back, and cuts it off, and then goes back and finishes the video later. Even like watching it a second time, I feel like it's pretty clear what was going on there from like the first half of the video, but yeah, he spells out the rest of it. And I love that Mauser was with them and is just like, finally, when she leaves out to go find him at the coffee place.
Dude, talk about an not even underrated, like it's phenomenal, but like just such a like wonderful small performance. And this film is just chock full of wonderful small performances by actors and actresses.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, though, like with Mauser, it's like when he goes, "Hey," like it's like, "Oh, I'm giving this guy shit," and you're like, "Is this even like a good person?" And then he goes back, he goes, "Okay, so if we can't delete him out front, let's kill him in the game." And you're like, "Okay," and then it's like, and then he goes, "But what skin you using?" And Keyes is just like strip club cop with an even bigger porn stash,
mm-hmm.
and he goes, "Cool, I'm gonna be a pink." like pink mustache.
He basically says, "I'm doing the full body stash in pink," and like,
oh, that's right.
And Keyes knows exactly what that means, but we don't know until we see him step out of the cop car in his full rabbit
pink,
outfit.
Yeah, pink rabbit outfit.
Yeah,
and he has a like rabbit mask, and he pulls it off, and it's like his face underneath.
Yeah,
and it's like it's so good because you have this you have Mauser and Keyes as like this like bunny cop and just like porn stash cop chasing down Guy where he has no idea what's going on. Like he doesn't understand that it's a game yet.
Mm-hmm.
He just knows the police are chasing after him.
Yeah,
and like it's like the most wild thing for Guy.
Yeah,
because like it's the craziest thing. They're trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And then when they finally do get him, when he goes, "I'm alive! Oh my god, I'm alive!" And then they swing around and sidewind and hit him.
Yeah.
And they're both like, "Woo!"
Yeah.
So
got
good.
him.
So good.
There's a subtle like extra thing that I didn't catch the first time around, but watching it this time around, like even the image that Keyes has for Mauser on his phone is Mauser in the bunny suit. Or it's his face, but with like you can see the pink bunny ears, bunny around it. So it's like I love that is like their dynamic. Like even the earlier stuff, like Mauser is kind of like a dick character to Keyes throughout, but like they're clearly like in the trenches together. They're ultimately like he bails on Taika as well when he sees what he's doing and all that stuff. And I love I love the line early on of like what are you even doing here? Like what's your deal? I thought you like this big indie crazy programmer or whatever. And he's like, yeah, it's a story of like blah 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 and sadness and despair and MIT and college debt or whatever. You probably don't want to hear it. He's like, you're right. That sounds boring as shit and also filled with white privilege. Don't tell that story. Like that was just another great like element of like that's one of my favorite lines of the film. And then another one being that I alluded to earlier is like when Guy brings all of the NPCs together to tell them the plan, and he's got like he's bouncing off of Millie there of how often do banks get robbed in your world? Hardly ever. And corpses, how many corpses do you see an hour? Like none. and how about gun violence? Is gun violence a big problem in your world? Yes, actually it is terrible. It's very sad. And she's like, oh, I was not expecting that. And she's like, yeah, it sucks. Like that was like
such a good line.
Yeah, that like that moment and the reactions from like everybody around us are, because this is probably of the movies that I've like gone back and seen in theaters so far, this probably had like the biggest crowd when we went and saw it yesterday afternoon.
I would agree with
of anything that I've seen like since being back, and I went and even saw like Black Widow in theaters and stuff like that. But it was
the fact that this had a bigger population and like a bit more people coming to see it than Fast 9, I was surprised by.
Yeah, and so like it really hit home like how great that experience is, experiencing that with other people and like all the laughter that was around us in the same moments that I'm having. Like, I mean, not only having like you right next to me laughing at a lot of the same things I'm laughing at, but like even like, so obviously another thing, we mentioned obviously the streamer cameos, but the actor cameos that are in this cameos as well. Like, I watched the kind of funny review of the movie before going and seeing it again today, and they had pretty much the same reaction that you and I had, where like when Joey and Kevin went and saw it, like Kevin turned to Joey at the beginning of the movie, was like, is that Channing Tatum? Just like you turned to me and was like, is that Channing Tatum? And I was like, it looks like him, maybe.
Yeah.
And then it's obviously revealed to be Channing Tatum later on when you get like more time with him and
so
stuff.
Good. Channing Tatum gets to in the 2 scenes that Channing Tatum is in, he just devours the scenery. He doesn't just chew it, he devours it. Like his like, and then when you find out that the guy on the other end is like this like
he's
red
like,
vine eating 22-year-old living with his mom. Nerd.
For those that have watched it, he's arcade guy from Stranger Things recently, or he was in like the Series of Unfortunate Events. He's like one of the people in Olaf's troupe. That's where I know him from, and like he just has that kind of like schlubby kind of 20 something look and vibe and feel, and yeah, like his mom screaming at him like, you're 22 and living at home, there's no God, and finding out after the fact that that's Tina Fey in a voice cameo and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the voice cameos. So like after we had that Channing Tatum tease, when Millie meets this guy in the alley and you only hear his voice, I immediately tune in to Hugh Jackman, largely because I love the like friendship rivalry that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have had for like a decade at this point and stuff. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Hugh Jackman doing like a voice cameo in this, and sure enough, seeing that in the credits, like,
then he also makes a comment about the accent, right? Like he's like, is that a voice modulator? Or,
yeah,
like that whole thing. And then at the towards the middle point, when she drops the voice modulator and she's using her regular voice without the accent, she goes to him and he goes, "Oh, what you lost your Australian accent."
He's like, English. He's like, I think I know English from Australia. Yeah, like
I think I know Australian accent when I hear one. Total, like, if you do not understand that there is a like personal relationship between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, that joke means nothing to you.
Yeah.
But if you do know it, like, it hits so specifically, so well. Like, it's great.
Another great voice cameo that like neither of us caught until the credits are rolling. Dwayne Johnson in there, and watching it back this time, like, he is the voice of the robber that is that little girl that like guy kills basically at the beginning of the movie. Like that voice is very clearly, now that I know it, very clearly Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, coming in and being the robber. But like part of the brilliance of that is it's intercut with like going in and again seeing the two girls there being like, what are you doing? Just like, it's an NPC, just smoke that mother, and they cut back into the game before they drop the F-bomb or whatever. And just like the juxtaposition of like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, being like the avatar for this girl is like just another great little beautiful, like, Ryan Reynolds calling up a friend being like, hey, can you record like a couple of lines for me, and we're gonna put it in the movie. And I love it. It's so well done.
Yeah, when he goes up to that one girl though, and he goes, like, why are you with this guy? You could be with any other guy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't even have to be with a guy.
Like, you could be, you could go be with a good guy. And she's like, or no guy. He's like, yeah, or no guy. Most of them suck. Like, and then later we find out,
he's like, by the way, there's this other the bombshell, which I guess is like like a known character in the world. He goes, the bombshell, she is actually written like a manifesto.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly damning on the patriarchy. Uh-huh. And like,
he's like, it can be a little preachy at times, but like, it's really good.
Really good.
Like,
yeah. It's like, there's that. And then when she shows back up later, she's not like bombshelled out. She's like, has like, a shirt, like t-shirt, and like a hoodie on, and some jeans or something, like some pants. And it's like, at the first time when she showed up, I was like, why are they giving focus to this other character? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's the bombshell character. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, totally have like done with this. It's super great.
The barista, the payoff of like, did she learn how to make a cappuccino? I can't even make a cappuccino.
I can't even froth my own oat milk in the morning.
But then when she's like, I want to do more than make coffee. I want to make, and then like guys like a cappuccino. She's like, a fucking difference, and he's like, that's way better. Like, yeah, like, I love that. It's
so good.
Watching it this time around, I especially like realizing it was a PG-13 movie. I was like, I remember they definitely drop an F-bomb in there, and like the one F-bomb they get is Guy saying good fucking morning, Goldie, to the fish. And it's just like, that is up there with X-Men First Class of like best use of a fuck you in a PG-13 movie, I think. Because it's just like a beautiful little moment that just adds to the character. I remember like watching it through the first time and being like, why does he keep flipping the blinds? Like, is that going to play into something later? Same. Like, and then I love that it did. I love that that's where he has seen the, life itself game hidden in the code kind of thing. Like, it was a beautiful payoff to like it's enough of a deal is made of it that it's like, you should at least have caught it and be wondering why he's doing that. And I love that, that I was rewarded for that. Again, just going back to just the fun little dumb things that don't have any bearing, but like, I caught the first time we were watching it, I caught like him walking down the street or something, and a car making the corner, like turning the corner and like changing colors. And I love, like, that's just a character, like a player is just like changing the color of their car as they drive or whatever. I'm like, that's wonderful. But then yeah, this time around it was just like watching the background, like players running around the city, and it is like, you know, somebody jumping every couple steps, and obviously like there's a big moment made of like a guy getting shot and then like teabagging him and stuff, but then just other characters that are like spinning around and like running into a wall and not like, and even the running into a wall pays off because like the jump, and then they get that, like they get stuck on the environment, so they kind of like freeze there and stutter a little bit. And I'm like, that's like clearly somebody who loves games made like that element of this scene, and I love that. Like I loved seeing elements like that, because again, like it doesn't go overboard with like, look at all the things they pepper in. Like when they use the Mega Buster in one scene, I was like, that's like the first time we've really seen like a video game thing in this world. And then
we saw the portal gun earlier.
Oh yeah, I guess the portal, but like even that, like it didn't
was
look like the
a
portal gun. It wasn't blue and orange. It was like more of a white portal. I was like, okay, I mean, like it's obviously it's cool to see it in that concept or whatever. But like just because of the light, it obviously ends up being that it was that kind of portal gun, because we see it when it gets used again later. But it was like, it was different enough that it didn't strike me as like the portal gun from Valve portal gun. It was just like, oh, that's, you know, obviously a popular idea, so let's incorporate it into this. So yeah, I didn't think about that, but yes, you're right, that like we see that earlier. But then like the Mega Buster was like the first like real video gamey kind of thing we saw in there, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So I love that they use that stuff so sparingly, because then it makes the impact of like the Captain America shield and the Hulk and the lightsaber and stuff, like the final sequence just pops that much more, because like it hasn't been, like the bit hasn't been overdone to that point.
I would say on top of that, it's like, oh, by the way, these are all the Disney acquisitions that we got. Towards like when we were finishing making the movie, and all of a sudden we were like, we had a delay in reshoots after the Disney acquisition, and everybody's like, well, now the movie's gonna suck because like clearly Disney didn't like it, and it turns out no, they just wanted to start using Disney props and stuff, and so it's like when it goes, is that, and everybody's like dancing around it, and then finally Millie goes, that's a freaking lightsaber.
I love the obviously that you know, is a great payoff. Watching it a second time, I caught it. There's one of the, when like they do a montage of like all the things that Guy is saving, like he saves a little girl that is very clearly like Anna from Frozen, basically like decked out in an Anna outfit and stuff, and I was reading about it. It's like, oh, it's like a little kind of tongue-in-cheek payoff to the Deadpool 2, like, do you want to build a snowman, or maybe it was the first Deadpool, do you want to be able, like the you know, slamming on do you want to build a snowman just being from whatever it was, the Barbara Streisand sings, but yeah, it was like I love that. But then yeah, the real payoff comes in like he gets the shield, like you can tell from the physical shape of the shield that we're seeing, it's like, is that the Captain America shield? And then it like cuts around and it's like, yep, that's the fucking Captain America shield. And then they just nail the beat home with Chris Evans like watching the stream on his phone being like, what the shit? Like in a
perfect
another,
oh, he's not at his home, he's at a coffee shop.
Yeah, exactly. But he's streaming it on his phone is what I said.
On his phone. Oh, I thought you said he's streaming it at home. Anyway.
That just being a beautiful moment, and then him pulling out the Hulk hand from the side. Like, yeah, it's like, again, because they didn't oversaturated with that, and I absolutely adore that they didn't give that away in any of the marketing stuff, because 100%. It is such a joyous, fun surprise when you get it. And of course it's coming in with the Avengers sting, and then the lightsaber comes in with the Star Wars music and stuff, and it is just like this. WB just did all the orgy of IP stuff with Space Jam Legacy, and it was terrible and stuff because none of it made sense and none of it is like IP that anybody cares about. But Disney has Marvel and they have Star Wars, and so they can pepper it in just like this in this little like new idea movie that they're introducing as like, oh, you want to do a metaverse? Here's a metaverse. Here's what we have. And of course, like you also get the Fortnite llama thing, which I loved. After seeing it in the game yesterday, I have pretty much all of my stuff set to like randomize in when I play Fortnite, and in one of the matches I played this morning to do like my daily stuff, like I got the unicorn llama pickaxe, and I was like, nice, love it.
I will say, one thing I really love about that final fight though against Dude, just that's perfection. It's like catchphrase.
Yeah. I didn't have time to come up with a catchphrase, but catchphrase is a pretty cool catchphrase.
And then he goes, "Oh, I like doing this, and third thing here."
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
That's great. It's but what I really love is how he resolves the fight.
Mm-hmm.
He resolves the fight not by overpowering or by blowing this guy away, but by enlightening him to the reality around him.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes everything for this Dude character, because it shows even though he's a half-baked NPC, in life itself, this AI engine, he can be whatever he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up being the good dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he's the good dude. He gets these glasses, and all of a sudden he's like running around and helping people. They show him later, he's got the basket of kittens next to the old lady.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like doting on him, and it's very clear, like, you know, he is being, it just shows like, even if you take Guy and you turn him into Dude, if you give him like that opportunity, he will be like the good guy, the good dude. And it's great. I love that optimism. I love the way that it ends it by enlightenment, not by destruction. And then like he's like, fine, I'm going to do it myself. Goes down with an axe and starts axing servers left and right.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, Mauser is just like, dude, no.
Yeah.
Like this is too far. He goes, if you're doing this, then that means for sure you did steal from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have given you beyond the benefit of the doubt because you're my boss and like I wanted to impress you, but like, this is too far. Now I know for sure, like, this is like a criminal action that you're doing. And
then Antoine's like, welcome to the conversation.
Security, take this former employee out of here.
Yeah. Make him at least know your name, man. Like, yeah. Lots of great stuff there.
So just so many small beats and lines in this film that just make it so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just so much again, love behind it. And like, I was blown away by really how much I enjoyed the movie. So many just great little bits and lines and stuff here and there, and like everybody, like ironically, all these like video game characters, because you know they're written to be larger than real video game characters, end up getting that extra little bit of life behind them that I think is really powerful. Like, and I remember when we were watching it through it the first time. And like when Guy kind of like changes the barista, and like you see the barista like make that switch of like, oh, like I remember thinking like, oh, maybe he's like a virus or something, and is infecting the rest of the characters in this world in an interesting way. And like I love that we see like it, and it's that same principle, but it's not a virus. It's just like that's the programming that was there underneath everything as well, and he's just kind of like opening their eyes up to it and stuff and making them want more. And I love that we got to see that with the barista, we get to see that with the bombshell character, and then they kind of expand on that to like we as an audience saw it, but then we get to hear about like what that impact that Guy had with these people meant. And I love that like even the guy who's like always like this, it like gets that the end of like, all right, yeah, you got me. I don't have to do that anymore.
Well, I liked it because it was also like a slow progress for him to overcome it.
Yeah, like
because he instead of doing like having his hands up like this, he started just having his hands up like this all the time.
Yeah,
yay, hey, yay, like in like good stuff like that. And I'm like, I like that it wasn't just a transition of you're right, I can put my arms down. Everything's better. It's like don't feel comfortable doing that. Like, and it's like and guys like that's great. If you're not feeling comfortable with it, don't do it.
Yeah,
and it's like. Also, I want to say the unironic kindness and sincerity that Ryan Reynolds put into this role of Guy.
Yeah,
I would not have thought that he could have done this.
Yeah,
to pull off straightforward, nice person, no tongue in cheek, never coming off as exaggerated or oversaturated or
Like, he's never being sarcastic. Like,
never being sarcastic. If you told me Ryan Reynolds goes through this entire film not being sarcastic, I would have said bullshit.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, like,
yeah.
Again, that's why I was saying, like, in the spoiler free stuff, he definitely wanted to put more than the normal Ryan Reynolds into this character. And I think it, it shows, and I think it's incredibly fun and just makes that character feel that much more alive for all intents and purposes, even though that's, obviously a whole other meta like reference in this thing. But yeah, but
also like we always say we don't want to see heroes like this, right? Like we don't want to see heroes who are just there to be the good guy. Like everybody always says nobody wants just like to watch a movie about the good guy. We just saw a movie about the good guy, and it's great because it's a good guy. Just like, and also like I love the meta commentary about like online behavior when people are doing online things, they're dicks.
Yeah.
And him just being like, it doesn't have to be that way. And my first thought process was like, we'll see how this goes. And then it like totally convinced me. And then I thought that immediately pulled me back to when I'm playing GTA like roleplay, and no pixel.
I definitely thought of you in the whole no pixel like idea of like, is this going to like thinking, I wonder if this is going to change how Cameron approaches no pixel stuff.
But it reinforced my approach to it already, where it was like I have done things on like while playing the roleplay stuff where like I heard an explosion and I drove over there, and instead of just like driving away, I got out and I asked, does anybody need help? Does anybody need to be taken to the hospital? And then it turns out that I actually walked into a gang war, like the end of a gang war, or like a battle between a gang, and I got guns drawn on me. And they're like, you a cop? Like, what are you doing here? I was like, no, I'm just a truck driver. I just thought maybe I could help people out. Like I just thought maybe there was like, I heard an explosion. I see a bunch of like bodies here. What can I do to help? And they're like, and immediately everybody was like, oh shoot, he's like, this guy's just role playing a nice dude. Cool. We'll be nice to him too. And I'm like, and I walked out of that situation being like, wow, that was fun. Like, it was fun just being a good person. And that's kind of like always been my approach to doing the online roleplay stuff, was just like, my character's a guy who used to be a bad guy, used to be like not the greatest person, and he's come to kind of like have a new life and start a new, like get a new life going. And like, so my guy, like, I don't like when people, shout at me or are mean to me, I don't get irrational. I don't get upset about it. And it's like, it's that same principle. And I was like, seeing that executed on a film so well made me really happy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I loved it. There's so much about this film that I love, and there's not really too many things that like I didn't care for.
Yeah. Which
is surprising. Like I said, I walked in this film being really, really surprised by how much I liked it. So
yeah, it was, really good all around. I especially, Jodie Comer, I want to give a special shout out to her. She's as the dual role of Millie and Molotov Girl, her in-game avatar and stuff. I remember like seeing the first trailers come out and being like, oh, I have no idea who this person is. This is really cool. She has, been on the show Killing Eve and stuff for years. But I don't see that. I almost had her in our That D Plus show as a mention for Rise of Skywalker, because she was like, she's Rey's mom in like the flashback scene in Rise of Skywalker. Is she really? Yeah. And like, I remember seeing that in the credits being like, oh, hey, that's the person that's going to be in Free Guy. Cool. But yeah, it was like she really wowed me in this. And I really impressed by, again, not only the badass action stuff she's doing in Free City, but then also just like I loved her, like her like real life persona and trying to figure out what's going on there, but also like determined to try and get, like she knows that her code and her game is in this thing, and this is how she's trying to get it. Like a shout out to another of my favorite lines of like when she's like at the cafe at the beginning of the movie, and the person's like, no, we don't like we usually don't put all the chairs up when we're ready to stay open. She's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the proof of my lawsuit in this code, and the woman just being like, I don't care. like that whole the exchange that she has with that barista in real life, fun. But yeah, I like the relationship obviously between her and Guy is a lot of fun, and then even the back and forth that we have when, like, regardless of like what state of relationship they're in, but I thought her and Keyes had great chemistry throughout as well. And it was a ton of fun seeing her. Joe Carey, who I'd seen obviously in Stranger Things, and his fantastic hair, also really good in this. So yeah, just like all
Joe
around.
Carey's amazing. I love Joe Carey in this film. He's I did not expect him, because he was like, yeah, it's platonic, and I was like, are they really going to play up like a romance angle? And what I loved about it is how subtle and like not. It was never done for the sake of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It was never used as a plot point up until the very end, where it turns out that like the last half of that message is actually him being like, listen, I'm in love with you, and I wrote this AI. I wrote this character script to basically be in love with the kind of person that I'm in love with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what it is. And when Guy, like you said, Guy has an amazing line delivery of, I'm a love letter somebody wrote for you. And her being like, Keys. And she goes, I gotta go. Like, and by the way, his narrating their breakup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Also great. Like, oh, this is so hard. Let me do it then. Yeah. That whole bit of like, you're amazing, but I, even though I created this world, I can't live in it anymore. And yeah, just like, because there was definitely a moment where I was like, oh, like, how is this going to resolve? Because obviously she can't be with video game character, or like, that's clearly not how, like when we see her like right before that, like make the decision to not go get coffee with Keys and to go back into the game. I'm like, oh, that's not healthy. I don't want that to be her ending of like, she's going to go live in this world so she can continue being with Guy or whatever. And I love that. Like, I mean, like she goes in obviously to kind of end it. It's just going to be hard for her, and Guy kind of helps her through that. And yeah, I love like that line is, pitch perfect of, I'm a love letter to you. And then, well, what are you going to do? Anything I want. And that's because of you. That's because like you gave, like, basically you gave us life. And like, we can never repay that. So I love that. I love then you get the little moment of, them meeting. We both had the same reaction in the theater where we're seeing them like stare at each other across the street, and all these cars driving by. And because we've seen cars just get hit so many people throughout that, like, we're both like unnervingly tense of like, you guys aren't in the video game world, don't cross in traffic, don't. And so like we were both, I think, tense about that, because that would have been a very weird tonal change for what they were trying to do there.
I wanted that sweet music to keep going.
Yeah.
But I'm like, in the back of my head, I was like, if this happened in a movie, it would happen in this movie. Please do not have this truck come in and like kill one of them, please. Thank you.
Don't do the Mean Girls ending of like somebody goes to cross the street and a bus hits them.
Please don't. Like we could all just use a happy ending to this story, and we get it.
Yeah, we get that, and then we cut back into the game, and Buddy's back, and it's like a lovely like reunion for Guy and Buddy as well. That again, we touched on how great that that relationship is set up throughout the film.
Oh my gosh, when he goes
payoff on that.
So are we on our way to the bank? There's no bank.
There's no bank. Yeah.
What are we gonna do? Whatever we want. And then the same thing we've seen throughout that entire movie of Buddy dropping his gun belt, is done so wonderfully, where it's a completely flip of it. The what it's trying to say is completely different.
Yeah. Because
now it's saying he's dropping it not because it's part of the programming and script, but because that's where that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. He does. It is a wonderful twist on like, he's been dropping it every time we've seen him do it because of his programming, because anytime the robber comes in, drop the thing and like lie down. And this is like, he makes the choice to drop it and go and ride a centaur or whatever he's going to do. Like, yeah, I love that. It was just a great, again, shout out to Lil Rel Howery in that role in particular, who was just a ton of fun throughout. Yeah, I really love this movie, and I like so much so that I basically was like, I need to go see it almost immediately again in theaters, and this is definitely one that is gonna go up on my list of the movies that I just wholeheartedly love. Of like, I mean, this one in particular, again, you touched on it already, but like, there's just such a great like sense of positivity around this, and I love that there is almost a culture of positivity kind of coming to the forefront between like this, I just watched, like, I've been binging Ted Lasso a lot and watching the new season of Ted Lasso that's coming on, and they had a Christmas episode this last weekend in August, but that's based on when it came out or whatever. And like the Christmas episode is going to become like regular Christmas fare for me because of just how good this episode of Ted Lasso is. I'm just going to be like, if I just want to feel good at the holidays, I'm going to throw that episode on because it's just firing on all cylinders. This is going to be like, if I'm just in the mood, like this doesn't have the, like, I love this. I love Scott Pilgrim, but this has such a different voice than Scott Pilgrim that isn't just like trying to be drenched in irony in the way that Scott Pilgrim is. That like this just there's such a sincerity to this, and yes, it is a sincerity of, you know, in a video game world that's like a cross between a Grand Theft Auto and a Fortnite, but it's still like it is a love letter to the things I love, to the video games, the culture surrounding video games, but then also like on top of that, like it's just a lovely action romance comedy kind of thing, and I just had so much fun with it, and I can't wait to, you know, keep watching this. I don't know if I'll go catch it in theaters again while it's out, but it's definitely one that, like, if I find myself like bored and looking for something to do, I will absolutely throw this on and have a great time. So any last spoilery things we want to touch on before we wrap up?
The only other thing I would bring up is I will never forget the scene where Guy is still at the site of their date after Molotov girl logged off, and you can just see that he's just been eating bubblegum ice cream all night.
Yeah,
that is just one of the things that will stay with me, as well as Channing Tatum
doing all the dances and stuff?
Doing all the dances one after the other in a single shot. You can tell it's just a single shot of him doing these dances, and it's like, he's so damn talented, and I love that he just does these cameos sometimes in films. Yeah, and this is, I think, his best one. I think this is definitely better than his This Is the End one, for sure.
I mean, the This Is the End one, I remember being like a shocking thing. Yeah. Just again, because like the tone of the movie, and you don't expect to see it, like, I mean, especially because that is him as himself, cameo wise. Yeah. Versus like this is, he's at least like an avatar in this game or whatever for this other kick, but it's still like, yeah, it was a great surprise to have that, like, you get this cool action shot. I've not seen him with like the buzzed head kind of thing in anything I've seen him or whatever. So like
he had a buzzed head in like G.I. Joe. Yeah. Like the old Channing Tatum stuff, he had a buzzed head.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those.
It was so weird seeing him with a buzzed head again.
Yeah, it was the kind of thing, like, we get him introduced at the very beginning of this movie in kind of a very action heavy sequence or whatever, but like it's so much of it is like the action around him, and like he's kind of the focal point, but not enough to be able to identify, like, as you said, like, is that Channing Tatum? Like, we were both kind of like, maybe kind of looks like it, and then for that to have paid off the way it does, of like it's his stash house that they've been trying to get into and all that stuff.
Oh my gosh, when he says, "Can you just say my catchphrase?"
Yeah, it's crime. What time is it?
Whatever. It's crime o'clock.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. No. And the like horrifying line to send that character off of like, "Mom, do not touch that sock. If you touch that sock, you will have therapy for years."
For the years. So good.
Yeah. Because again, it does a great job of like setting up the real person behind the avatar enough to like make it just that much more impactful from when we see like who's actually.
You're 22, living at home. There is no God.
Yeah, again,
such a great line.
Great Tina Fey thing. I had caught the John Krasinski one that was in there too. It was in the montage of like killing NPCs stuff of all the Twitch streamer stuff. He's like the one that's like, you know, like in a like that's clearly not a Twitch streamer or whatever. And it's just like a physical body, and you hear the voice, and I was like, that sounded like Jim Halpert. And yeah, it's John Krasinski doing that one. So yeah, that was just so much fun. Like just seeing those little cameos pop up, and them all being like fun little surprises that again don't take you out of the movie. The ones we just didn't even catch the first time around just are that much more fun in hindsight, realizing who they were. And yeah, I had a great time with it. So shout out to Free Guy. Had a great time with it. So much fun. Glad I got to see it with you. Glad I got to see it in theaters with an audience. Because again, like, I'm sure I still would have enjoyed it if it had been like the at-home experience. But like, there is something beautiful about the communal movie theater going experience, and getting to see that with a crowd of people, having those reactions, having those laughs, and
Oh, I
getting
just realized
everybody
I was
getting
a bit
the excitement around, you know, the Captain America shield and the lightsaber. That like, I like when those pop up and I have them, like I have those reactions. Of course I'm going to have those reactions. I know I love those things, but then being surrounded by a whole other like a theater of people that also love those things and are also popping for those things, I was just like a ton of fun. What were you gonna say?
I will say, I was gonna say, I was also a little tipsy during this thing because
Oh,
I like
you had your gin and
I
tonic?
yeah, I downed a gin and tonic because I normally don't like gin and tonics. Because gin's my preferred like spirit of choice. But I wasn't driving this time. My brother-in-law drove us over. Because we carpooled because we lived together and we were gonna, and like I asked you at like the last minute, like, hey, he's gonna like get his own ticket and stuff. But is it cool if he like tags along with us? You're like, yeah. It was nice that he finally got to meet you because I talked like they're always like, who you're going to hang out with? I was like, oh, Trevor, and they're like, oh, that guy again. Okay, cool. And it's like he's the first person in my family to actually meet you.
Mm-hmm. I'm a real person. He has proof now.
Yeah, he has proof. No, it was what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, but since I wasn't driving, I was like, cool. I will have more than just like the solitary like beer or whatever I normally get. And so I was like, let's me go ahead. I'm gonna actually do this. But I was like, man, I really don't like tonic. Like, I don't like tonic water because it's like it just like dilutes it. It doesn't really like add anything to it. I prefer it with like a like.
I mean, yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah, the idea
for
is
somebody
just
who just doesn't want a shot of gin.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm not that person. I want like gin mixed with like something nice, like because you mixing the fermented juniper berries with other fruits and other things is good. Like I will say that the cucumber was an interesting add to it. It was very fancy, very fancy. It was a good, solid, smooth drink. But I also had it with they brought back milkshakes.
Yeah.
To Alamo, which was probably like one of the highlights of my entire time at seeing that movie. Because there's nothing better than that Mexican vanilla milkshake that they do. Yeah,
my server made sure to point that out today when I was there. She's like, I don't know if you haven't been back in a while, but milkshakes are back. I was like, I'd heard. I saw the Instagram post. So yeah.
Also, they also do like a really good tartar sauce, and their fish and chips is actually like really good because it's not just like you're like, oh, are these fish sticks? It's like, oh no, they're just like, it's just small cuts of fish done for that purpose.
When you order that, I definitely thought to myself, I'm like, I hope that doesn't stink. And I did not and then I forgot about it. Like it showed up and you ate it, and I did not smell any fish or tartar sauce the whole time. So I was like, oh, phew.
Yeah, they do not. I love their tartar sauce though. It's very, very good. Next time though, I need to make sure I order more because like ketchup on fries is fine. But tartar sauce with fries is the best. So,
all right, there you go. I had my ranch and chicken tenders. So, yeah. Anyway, there's our fun little meal time addendum to Free Guy.
I mean, if we go to the Alamo, we got to talk about the food and drinks that we got. Like that's the purpose of the Alamo.
I mean, speaking of like, it stands today. Like, it was a very weird pre-show that they did for the Alamo for this one.
Oh yeah,
that was like a whole bunch of like
sci-fi space man stuff they did for the pre-show was super weird.
Yeah, I was like, this is one of their more generic like science fiction pre-shows. They did not do a Free Guy specific pre-show, and I was a little let down by that because I feel like it could have been Tron. Oh, that's another one that you can kind of take back to your brother. Is like, this is for the same audience that Tron was for.
100%. Yeah,
because
like,
they could have done Tron. They could have done like a whole bunch of video game movies and stuff that we've seen in recent years, like Pixels, and I mean, like, especially if you want to make fun of a movie, like do Pixels. But yeah, I think like that. I mean, Detective Pikachu obviously would have been a great analog for this. So it was just a very weird like. Why is it only, serials from like the 1950s and earlier on like Men in Space and stuff like that? It was very weird Alamo pre-show, but still good time overall. Like, today I even tried to like, I was like, I don't need to see that again. So I'll just, I'll go in later. And I messed up the timing, and I still basically got there like right when it started and opened up. I was like, all right, well, whatever. I'll eat my pizza today. So yeah. good times. But I think that is going to do it for this episode of That Nerdy Site Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk about Free Guy and our Final Fantasy XIV updates, because it's always fun checking in with you on that as well. Let's go around the metaphorical table with any plugs we have. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yes, there is. I want to give a shout out to your Let's Plays of you've been going back and doing the pixel remasters for Final Fantasy. I finally cut the one where you made us as the Warriors of Light, which was super fun to watch. It was just nice to just kind of see this, and they're really fun, especially when you get to do like the compare and contrast of them.
Yeah.
So definitely go check those out. Trevor put some really good work into it, and I really like them. So there you go.
Cool.
And that's youtube.com/thatnerdysite.
Yep.
There you go.
You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. I will give a shout out to our Summer of Star Wars, which is winding down here. We only have 2 episodes left before we go back to doing just regular That D Plus shows. But we just did Rogue One, which was largely universally loved by our entire panel of team members. So go listen to us gushing about that movie for a couple hours from last week's That D Plus show, or any of our other Star Wars things. I'm gonna have to like make a playlist on YouTube that is basically like That D Plus Star Wars and add in like the Bad Batch episode and when we did Lego Star Wars holiday special and the Mandalorian ones and all that stuff. I think there's definitely like going to be like 20 videos on that playlist by the time everything's done. But we'll be back this week with Solo, which I need to sit down and watch and build out the document for and do all the research on. And then we will wrap up next week with Empire of Dreams, the documentary on the original Star Wars trilogy. Couple more episodes to go. Check out that or all of our other podcasts over on youtube.com/thatnerdysite or on podcast services around the globe. Once again, you can find all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, and maybe even consider supporting us over on Patreon, patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Every patron gets early access to a monthly bonus episode of this very podcast. This month's early access is me, Cameron, and Frank sitting down and doing our kind of 2021 Game of the Year watch. Ran in about a little over 3 hours, I think. Good thing Logan didn't join us for that, because it probably would have been a 4-hour podcast. And shout out to our friends over at Uppercut, who apparently just did their own 4-hour plus version of the same kind of topic, and were able to rope Jarrett Green into it, who notoriously hates long podcasts. Like he was very adamant back in his input days of trying to keep that thing under an hour every time. And anytime like Logan and I, tweet out anything, and he sees how long it is, he just kind of says no. So the fact that they got him on that, shout out to our friends over at Uppercut. That is going to do it. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Cam, for joining me. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.